like to call the meeting to order. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. I'm your temporary chair for this evening. I want to thank you all for coming tonight. This business workshop meeting is being held both in person and virtually through Zoom in compliance with RSU number 38 policy BED, remote participation in school board meetings. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the maranacook.org YouTube channel. Citizens.
Jump in right now
And
for
Jay
roll
will
call.
jump in.
Yeah, so I'm going to do roll call first. So again, board members, please respond here. And any board members joining via Zoom, please make sure you can hear our audio. And of course, your audio is turned up so you can hear all board members. All votes will be done through roll call. So when your name is called, please cast your vote with the three available options of yes, approve, no, disapprove, or abstain from the vote. So very quickly, roll call vote. David G.
Here.
Jade Parker. Is she online yet? I know she might be a little bit late. Okay. Jade, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. I just got added as a panelist. I'm here.
All right. Thank you, Jade. Annie?
Here.
Dane?
Here.
Tyler? I believe I got a message he would not be here tonight. Christine?
Here.
Kathy is absent tonight. Patty, I believe, is online.
Here.
Awesome. Rebecca?
Here.
Betty?
Here.
Sean may be a few minutes late. Kelsey looks like she might be online.
Here, hi.
Thank you, Kelsey. And David T.
Here.
And I know our two student reps communicated with us that they would not be here tonight. So with that, I will turn it back over to Mr. Twitchell.
Okay. Citizen comments and public participation. In accordance with RSU number 38 policy BEDH, public participation at school board meetings, the following guidelines will be followed. For those attending via Zoom, you will notice that the microphones will be muted except during the identified portions of public comments at this meeting. This is number 4 on tonight's agenda, as well as 8D for public comments regarding the budget. If you are viewing on Zoom and would like to speak during the public comment times, please use the chat feature to notify Diane McGregor, and she will communicate with me. In-person speakers, please sign up on the sheets on the clipboards over by the door. All speakers, please identify yourself with first and last name and the town you live in. Priority will be given to individuals who live or pay taxes in our member communities, immediate family members of enrolled students, and employees of RSU number 38. Individuals that do have one of those direct connections to our district may or may not be given permission to speak at the discretion of the board chair. We ask that speakers limit their comments to 3 minutes. And if someone who has a similar view as yours speaks ahead of you, please reference their comment rather than repeat the same ideas. We want to hear from all of our stakeholders and ask that you be respectful with your constructive comments to the board. I would also like to clarify how we address concerns of the public. In accordance with RSU number 38 policy BEDH, we welcome all respectful comments and concerns. And we ask that you not use any derogatory comments or use names of or identifying comments of any district personnel. We cannot discuss specific personnel matters in the public setting, but can, excuse me, can listen to broad concerns that folks may have. All speakers are to address the chair and direct questions or comments to particular board members only with the approval of the chair. The board will hear and record the comments and questions, but will not debate the matters at this meeting. Board members' questions must be addressed through the chair. Following the meeting, we will take time to research and gather information on the matter, and at the next board meeting, we will follow up with information on the issue. The public is always encouraged to call the superintendent at any time with issues and concerns. We've got student reports next.
Would the middle school like to come up? Lila and Carter and Taylor, thank you. Taylor.
Hello, I'm Carter. So on Acadia, in Mr. Holman's Golden Promise class, we've been learning about the birth of our nation. So we're holding mock elections, or no, sorry, not mock elections, mock Continental Congress sessions, which where the delegates decide on the British Parliament's laws, and if we want to use them. So in his other class, we continue to learn about the plague and germs, and we're working on our projects about certain topics during the Middle Ages, like how the Black Plague affected wars, or how it affected economies or governments. So Acadia is continuing to use the IM math curriculum to solve real world problems, going from simpler things to finding the service area of rooms, all the way to more complicated things. They also continue to learn about percentages. On Sebago, they're learning about human anatomy. They've been working on life-size models of themselves, and using the fractions they've been learning about, they were able to create real tendons and muscles. Yes, so the limbs are capable of movement and the appendages. So student government has been carrying out a clothes drive for Vicky's Boutique out there. And they've finally collected and sorted all the clothes. So Mrs. Lord is going to go home and wash them, and then they'll be stored for student use. They're also working on Winter Carnival, which should happen mid-February. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Lila, and on the Royal team in one of our core classes with Miss Satterfield, we have been learning about rights for our country and rules that we follow to keep us safe. We're also learning about court and all the things that go into making trials happen. In Miss Ryder's core class, we are learning about molecules and atoms. We're doing labs about DNA and tracing DNA to figure out different ways we can figure out crime cases and feel like detectives. In Miss Scher's core class, we are learning about relationships. We're learning about how we can maintain a healthy and positive relationship. We are also learning about different types of relationships. In 8th grade math, we are learning about slope and finding the y-intercept in equations and tables. In 7th grade math, 7th graders are starting geometry and focusing on drawing shapes and angles. In 6th grade math, students are starting to learn about the ratio unit and working on finding equivalent ratios. In literacy, we are starting to learn about point of view and how point of view can change our thinking about the book.
Thank you.
On Moose, they are doing a second round of book clubs based on wars. They have been studying Holocaust everyday objects and how they affected the lives of the people who were involved. They are working on cell structure and learning about the Civil War also. And they're fundraising for a field trip in May. In Spanish, they are learning stories of traditions that would happen in winter, along with winter activities in Spanish-speaking countries. Sorry. In German, they are still working on their Red Riding Hood play and are using a vocabulary website called Fun Series for grammar. They're hoping to do the Red Riding Hood play in Arts Night at the end in March. French is working on preparing 8th graders for a test to see whether or not they qualify for French 2 in high school. Art is working on their first art piece, a pop art drawing of a food. Health is learning about communication and the power of words. And on Moxie, we are doing short story essays and reading in pairs to learn about character, plot, and theme.
Thank you. Any questions from any of the board? Thank you very much. You're learning so many things. It's fantastic. I feel like a dummy.
Taylor, can we invite you up to talk about the high school?
Sorry, give me a second. Hi, I'm Taylor McBurney, and on the council, they have mainly been discussing and figuring out details on the Winter Carnival and trying to have other committees help spear out with Winter Carnival. On the Student Voice Committee, they held their Neon Night dance, and it was their first one in years. It had a really good turnout and students seemed to enjoy a less formal dance. Student Voice is going to be trying to find some new projects and may help spear it with Winter Carnival before they start their senior shout out project. Student Wellness is finalizing their Black Bear cards and finishing final details with businesses. The Black Bear cards are being used as rewarding honor roll and high honor roll students with small discounts from local businesses. Outreach did their carnation sales last week, and they held sales during both lunches to sell carnations to students for a fundraiser. There are about 5 different colors students could choose from. On the Spirit Committee, they have begun Winter Carnival planning. They are planning on doing a slideshow project to represent what Winter Carnival is to the freshmen and maybe have an assembly for a kickoff. On skiing, Nordic girls got second, Roy Varney race, and boys got third. The next Nordic race is the Kavaks. Alpine is also having a good season. On boys basketball, the boys are also having a very decent basketball season, and they have a game against Mountain View tonight. On girls hockey, the Black Tigers co-op in their last week of regular seasons, and next week they will begin playoffs on Wednesday. In girls basketball, they're doing very good, and they won their last game tonight. And tonight is their senior night game. In the theater, the production of Clue is going very well, and right now they're doing set design and painting the set. In districts is an auditioned choir that pulls from schools all over the district, and they spend 2 days together going over the music that they have learned together and refining it before the concert on Saturday. It was a very good performance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay,
There's a lot going on.
yes, fantastic.
Yes. Thank you very much, Taylor.
Are there any citizen comments online or? You may go if you want. Thank you for coming. Any citizen comments? If none right now, we'll go on to, are there any additions, adjustments to the agenda by the board and or the superintendent? No. Section 6A, celebrations.
If I could invite up first, Principal LaForge is going to talk about the high school very quickly.
Wow. Taylor's a hard act to follow. This is, you have a picture, I almost sent it to Diane to put up, but you have it as part of my report or some pictures from a celebration that we had last week. At the end of the first semester of this 22-23 school year is a remarkable opportunity to remember and acknowledge the accomplishments of the last 5 months. The Sources of Strength student team wanted to acknowledge this achievement of their peers, their teachers, and their school. I've been keeping track for the last 5 months of first year I'm a principal of all the things that we've done that we haven't done in 3 years, from professional development to holding in-person things, just a million things. And so I wanted to share tonight that as a result of the SOS team, we took a day last week. We came together in an assembly. The Commissioner of Education was going to join us, but then we had a snow day and then it had to move and then she couldn't make it. But we had cookies in the cafeteria. They were little things. We had a balloon arch at the very end of the day. We had school board and central office representation. We had signs. You did it. Be proud of yourself. And they were cheered out by the central office staff and representatives of the school board. So every student, every teacher or staff member's accomplishments are unique. It might be making the honor roll or writing your first long paper. It might be joining a team or playing on varsity. It might be getting your sled working so you can ride to school. It might be being a good friend, performing in a concert, or even making a friend. We took a minute to celebrate 353 teenagers' accomplishments, plus all of their adults. Tonight, I wanted to make sure that I acknowledged here that each of these accomplishments makes a positive impact on others. So each one is great in itself, but then it spins out into more good. And I wanted to highlight one such milestone. These two dances that you heard Taylor talk about, planned and hosted by our Student Senate and their advisor, Trudy Cormier. Not only did they plan our first in-person dances in many years, but they collaborated with their peers in that planning, including a game room and cool themes. These were strong fundraising events for them, and they contributed $1,500 to a winter heating oil assistance program. Thank you to them, and thank you to you for supporting us in our work. Each piece of our program, each person, every piece of our budgets supports many other pieces. Thank you for your work on our behalf.
Thank you.
Thank you, yes.
And now I'd like to invite Principal Sorois to come up to share about something that happened earlier this week.
Mine is much more brief. I would just like to celebrate that we have reinstated the senior cafe here at the middle school. This is where we invite senior citizens from the community to come in. They use our cafeteria space, which with the 2-hour delay created some obstacles, but we made it work. We had a community organization come in this week to present to them around transportation for medical appointments and errands and that type of thing. And we just have a number of things planned for upcoming agendas where there will be interaction with the students. One that I'm most excited about is where the students are going to help the senior citizens with their technology and help them answer questions and learn how to use it a little more effectively. So we're just really excited about the potential that that has ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That is the celebration. Okay. Now on the reports. Are there any we need to go over or hear more about? Or any questions on the reports? Yes.
I was actually going to ask you how that senior cafe went, so I'm glad you brought it up. It was really exciting. So I just wanted to make a comment.
If there's nothing else, we can move on to section C, the committee report.
That sounds good. Actually, we've got a lot of upcoming committee reports, or excuse me, upcoming meetings. In your folders is the administrative staff board evaluation meeting we had on Tuesday. So I worked to get the minutes done and in your folders. And as you can see, we've got communications coming up at the end of February. We have curriculum happening in mid-April, as well as facilities and transportation in mid-March. The health advisory next meeting is actually next week, February 6th. And then we've got policy happening next week as well on Tuesday the 7th. So we have a lot going on.
Section D, the ad hoc committee, Awesome Bear Society.
No report there.
No report right now. Okay. Now we're to section 7, action informational items. 1, we have the question of the minutes of the January 18th, 2023 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approval of the minutes of January 18th, 2023 meeting.
Second.
Okay. Any comments, questions? Okay.
All set for a vote?
Yes.
Okay, David.
We have a
G.
correction.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
I don't have it with me, but I think one of the members of the public's names was spelled wrong. That's code. Shoot. Mrs. Marco, I think it's spelled wrong. If I remember that.
Thank you, Sean. As clerk for another organization, I know how important it is to get the feedback and to know what's right and wrong. Section B, oh, we need to vote.
Yep.
Excuse me.
All right, so, David G,
Yes.
Jade,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Dane,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Patty. Oh, she's not in, okay. Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Kelty,
Yes.
and David T.
Yes. She's back.
Oh, there we go. Patty, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. I lost you, but now I'm back. Sorry.
All good. So, we're voting on the minutes. Sorry, I got tongue tied there. 7A.
Yeah, I'm going to abstain because I was absent.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So it passes with one abstention.
The next question is acceptance of donations. Is there a motion to accept the donations as listed?
I move we accept the donations as listed. Second.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Aside from gratitude for all of them? If not, let's vote.
Right. David G,
Yes.
Jade,
Yes.
thank you. Annie,
Yes.
Dane,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Kelty,
Yes.
and David T.
Yes.
It is unanimous.
Number C, we are considering the consideration of requests for second year leave of absence, Susan Hogan. Does anyone have a motion on considering that?
I move that we consider the request for second year leave of absence, Susan Hogan. Second.
Any questions, discussions, or anything further to say about it?
Nope.
So
Sean?
just keep going or like.
No, this is this one is 2 years only. Yeah. Our policy is for a 1 year, and,
So we're going for a second.
we're going for a second year, at this point. Yeah. But that is all the contract is with the state is 2 years. It will not extend past that.
Good question.
Nothing further, we'll vote.
David G,
Yes.
Jade,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Dane,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Kelty,
Yes.
and David T.
Yes.
So it passes unanimously. Thank you.
Number D is just the update on the bathrooms. It doesn't require a vote. You
But
want
if
to say?
it's, yeah, if it's okay to just speak very quickly, I just put a little memo together. Just saying that Sean Drinkwater, who's here tonight, did go through, checked all faucets and all bathroom stalls, doors, locks, toilets. The one toilet that was broken we actually got the part on Monday, and I believe Sean is probably already installed. It was installed today, so everything is working. At the middle school, did the same thing, went through and checked all faucets and toilets and locks and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that I wanted to point out, after talking with Sean, I didn't realize that the water sprayers are low flow. And there's no way to time those, so we can't make them run longer or shorter. So it's really, the building is over 15 years old, so you gotta figure there's new technology out there now. And what we have is the older technology. So as they get broken or don't work, we'll replace them. But at this time, we don't really have much control over that. Same with the soap dispensers. After doing a little digging, the soap dispensers are attached to the walls because the manufacturer does not encourage us to attach it to anything else. So we have some long mirrors in the bathroom, so we didn't want to attach them to the mirrors because that's not recommended. So, as we replace things, we'll take a look at that and do what we need to make it work a little better for everyone. Just a couple of odd little things there as we were investigating, but wanted to report out. I didn't ask Sean to give a full report, but I do know there was something that happened yesterday, and I know it went to Principal LaForge, who went with the student to take a look at what was going on so it could get addressed. So again, the message we're trying to get out is if we know something's broken, please let us know, and we will make sure it gets fixed as quickly as possible. So.
I just, so thank you so much for the work on that and the update. But I'm wondering too about, a student mentioned concerns about the doors and some gaps between the doors. So what's the situation with that?
Yeah, right now, I don't know if that was kind of something we talked about yesterday, as a matter of fact. So I don't know if Principal LaForge, if you're comfortable.
Sean's been through everything and I've been through everything. I think Superintendent Charette spoke to it once that the stalls were put in once upon a time. So getting replacement parts and other things. So some stalls have a little bit more of a gap between them than others. Others close very hard and tight. I was in every single one this morning in the girls' bathrooms anyways. So we make it as close as possible, but it's very much like if you go into a bathroom in an airport or something like that, they close and, but there's nothing as big as an inch. There's nothing, so thanks, appreciate it. And I did want to make sure that you all knew that there are private bathrooms, one in the health center, one in the main office, that any student can use anytime, and they do. They come in and they use them. So I know that part, at least they know about them. And so if you want some privacy, you got it.
Thanks for that.
Sure.
Concerning the middle school faucets.
Yeah.
There's in the men's bathroom, boys' bathroom, I'm gonna call it, next to the gym, there's 3 faucets. On the weekends, does only like 2 work?
That's a good question. Sean, you'll have to go to the
boys' bathroom
microphone,
next
Sean.
to the gym. All right, I was just in there on Saturday and the furthest one over didn't work at all.
Okay, if it doesn't, I don't know about it, but they're all brand new faucets in that bathroom and the girls' bathroom, so. Yeah, no one's reported that to me, but I can check that out. And just a little update on the stalls with the gap. They do make a piece now that you can put on those stalls to cover those gaps, and that's something that I'm looking into, so.
Thank you, Sean.
And that's excellent because that's what we need, not only from the students and team, but the board or anybody. If something is wrong, whether it's the bathrooms or something else, get it into the system like you just did, and so that we can deal with it. Thank you. If there's nothing else on that, we've got number E, update on the morale survey.
So I just wanted to inform the board that we went through a process for focus groups to give people an opportunity to meet in person. And we used 4 questions, 30 minutes was what we allotted for time. We tried our best to make sure that there was a variety of administrators that were doing the focus groups, and there was no, for lack of a better way to say it, power differential. So like if I'm going to use Mrs. Brackley, just because I happen to look up at her, if there was a staff member from Mrs. Brackley's school that was part of the focus group. We didn't want Mrs. Brackley to be the one asking the questions or looking for feedback. So we tried to mix it up as best we could. It is a small district. As big as we are, it's still a very small district. And there's a lot of connections. So we did the best we could. We had planned for 6 people in each group. We did 10 groups. We got about 50% participation. I don't know the exact number. I haven't looked at it yet. But we did gather some really good information, and it seemed to be well received for those that participated in it. So our next step is myself, the curriculum director, Karen Smith, who's kind of the one behind the scenes making everything happen, as well as our HR director, Kate Taylor, and our association president, Jill Ford, will be sitting down with all the data from the survey and from the focus groups to then kind of identify some threat, quote unquote, threat areas that we really need to focus in on. The guidance is to choose 1 or 2 of those areas and really focus in on those. So after we do that, then we will be looking to bring in a larger group from there. So within the next 2 weeks before February break, we'll be having that initial planning meeting with that smaller group, and then we'll be opening it up and sharing more information at that point. So we seem to be making a lot of progress at this point now. So I'm pleased with where things are going. Look forward to a full report very shortly.
A good start, and something that's continuing the process. Number F, SRO survey response.
So again, just before we get into it, I'd like to say one side is color. That's directly from the Google, very simple Google form that I put out. On the back side, please know that the column all the way to the right is actually the no column. I apologize for the 2 yeses there. I wanted to break it down by subcategory. I noticed there was a question that circulated a little bit about could you respond more than once to the survey? So if you put in your survey, we didn't collect email addresses, but if a person used a different email address, I don't have any control over that. So I'm hoping we didn't. We got 1,009 responses in roughly the week that it was over, which I thought was really good. And you can see the breakdown from there. Again, this was meant to just kind of get a pulse of what was going on and what people were initially thinking around it. So I apologize if anyone wanted more, but it was just, we just needed to get a flavor for where's the sentiment in our different subgroups or different stakeholder groups here. So that's what I'm sharing with you tonight. And I know you all will use it, as appropriate as you're making your decision, which we don't have to make tonight. So just want to say that as well, but wanted to give you guys something to do there.
So when you say make your decision, what's the next step on the SRO officer?
So I'm going to present a little bit at the budget time. I'm going to fold in the SRO as to where it stands with the rest in the larger picture of the budget.
Right.
And what I'm hoping for is on the 15th for a decision whether it's in or out of the budget initially. That doesn't mean things can't change, but I will say to everyone here, it's so much easier to know it's in the budget and then back it out if you change your mind than it is to put it in the, not put it in the budget, work through everything and then decide you want to add it in. That always kind of tends to sticker shot people a little bit. So, so the next step is I just need direction on if you'd like it in the budget or not. So if you're going to put it in the budget, then I think then there's more work to do from there, but I kind of need a direction at this point. So.
And so that will be, we will vote on that at the meeting on the 15th or,
yes.
okay.
Yeah, and there's other positions that are going to go along with that. So it's not just that standalone position.
I know, I saw all of that. And so it changes your, and I saw some feedback from community members and of course, everybody was aware, right? There's not a lot of information to go with. It depends on a lot of things, whether you're in support or not. But I'm glad we're going to be talking about it in the context of all the other budget stuff.
Yes, yeah. Because I think it's not a standalone. You have to look at the larger context of what this budget is going to look
Totally
like.
agree.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're very welcome. don't know if there's any other questions or comments around. Yes, Arlo?
If not, we'll plan on continuing that the
Yep.
15th and go to number 8, budget workshop.
The budget workshop. So we do have in the past, we've done a little slideshow presentation. So I'm going to invite the principals up. I will ask the elementary principals to go first, followed by the middle school principal and then the high school principal as they share out the new requests that are in their budget. And if I can ask Diane to pull up the screen, I'm actually going to join them for this so that I can review the positions. After they've done that, I'll do the positions real quickly. And then I'll join the board again for board questions and citizen comments. So. Oh, just one? Okay, that's fine. Keep doing it. So we're going to have Janet Delmar will talk about the elementary school. There's 4 principals, so they just elected Janet to talk about it. So, just very quickly before she starts, on this presentation, you'll notice that we put the new board goal that's up there. So that way, that's always kind of our center as we're having conversations, and we take a look at that from the goal perspective as we're talking about different pieces of the budget. Next slide. And then just some very quick reminder of some of the team directives. We're trying to do as little to no increase in overall spending. Our target was 1% to 2%. That's going to be extremely hard to hit this year. Being very open and honest about it. We want to make sure we have as much transparency as possible and equity of spending across all of our schools. So instructional lines are based on students in a building with additional allocations for our Title I schools. As I mentioned last week, we're trying to keep class sizes where they've always been. So 15 to 20 in an elementary classroom, 18 to 22 in the middle, and 10 or more in any high school classes. And then again, we're looking very carefully at positions. They may not automatically be filled. So I will talk more about positions in just a few minutes. So we don't want the budgeting process to become contentious between the towns and the districts. In my time here, we've been very successful in doing that because of the transparency and because of the open communication. And I really hope we can continue that going forward. And then as part of the administrative team, we, at all of our AT meetings from now until basically May, we will be discussing the budget factors affecting our budget and reviewing requests as a team based on the overall goal set by the board. So with that, that was just kind of the quick overview and reminders. I'll turn it over to the elementary school liaison at this point.
Tag, I'm in. Very simply, we worked a lot together, the 4 of us, along with the curriculum coordinator and the finance manager. We talked a lot in developing our budgets, and there's really no significant increases at the elementary school level. From the beginning of this process, we took the directive from Superintendent Charette. He's been very realistic with acknowledging the increase in the costs of all service areas. The ESSER funds are coming to an end and just being really fiscally responsible in these really tough economic times. So as a result, the elementary principals followed these guidelines and set forth the budget in the budget process. So pretty much as it was. I think next is middle school.
I want 4 other people with me up here. So for the middle school's budget, and I'm going to admit this is my first go round with this. We've worked really hard at making no increase overall. The big highlights of things that we're looking for is a math intervention teacher that was taken out last year in place of a classroom teacher due to the growing population and need to reduce the per student class sizes. That is something though that we have put a Band-Aid on and really worked hard to make sure that those students are still being serviced this year, but it doesn't feel super sustainable. We're using classroom teachers in their tutorial times right now to service the needs of these students, which is adding an additional prep to the teacher's load, as well as kind of walking our schedule a little bit in some ways for these students. And it also decreases the accessibility of those teachers to the other students that don't need interventions. And I have more information on that if people have questions, but I'll try to keep it brief for tonight. The furniture needs are just a few random things that we need with the addition of a team. We realized this year, now that it's in process, that we're lacking a few things that other teams have, like basic cubby storage and coat hangers, are the simple things that we're looking for there. Chairs are original with the building from 2001, and we're starting to see a higher rate of breakage and wear and tear on them. So they're being replaced with what we have in stock at a higher rate, and that's more or less diminished at this point. So we're just looking to restock additional chairs and for the future year to plan for just more wear and tear. One whiteboard that the finish is gone on and no longer erases. So that, and one standing desk for a teacher is all incorporated in that increase. And the other thing are that currently Miss St. Pierre and I, in reviewing camera footage, use our small computers, our laptops, and it was recommended that maybe we get something a little bit bigger to make it easier to see what we're looking for there. As far as instructional supplies and materials, again, inflation and the addition of another team, just really looking to keep pace with per teacher monies for classroom instructional supplies. And as far as the advisor system needs, really briefly, the advisor system has not seen an increase in the budget in over 20 years. We've been really creative in funding advisor training days and such. And this small increase that we're asking for would fund keynote speakers for the advisor training day, as well as lunches for the presenters throughout that day. And another big thing that we're really hoping for is there's a $900 fee annually to the Alphon Youth Center in Waterville that our 6th grade students go to an advisory day out for community and team building. We have traditionally asked families to pay for that. Fewer and fewer are able to, and I see way too often teachers picking up that bill. And I'm hoping to be able to help them keep their money that they earn. And lastly, to offset that cost, we've traditionally had $800 for supplies in the advisor lines, and we'll reduce that to $100. Just knowing that the use of the share center, really $100 gets us what we need for supplies for the year there. That's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello again. So I also am new to this year. So I wrote a little bit, but I'm not going to talk very long, but I am going to say that this high school budget, and I am going through this for the first time, does reflect a commitment to sort of our past, present, and future, sort of regaining some momentum, some resources that you've probably seen asked for before. So some of the things might be familiar, but to really look at the data and the needs right now and build the right future. So I wrote a long, grandiose statement, but I really feel strongly about adjectives. So I will say that the budget is built to position the high school to deliver relevant, durable, creative, engaging, inclusive, and productive education to every student through strong curriculum, outstanding instruction, and a variety of supports and services, and positive relationships. As Rick said, his nod to the advisory program, it's very important for us as well. Not just for all the things it does for students and teachers, but I will say that as an administrator, having advisors be part of restorative processes and others has just been amazing. I did want to say that as a new principal, I've scrutinized every line of my budget, and many thanks to Mandy Fitzgerald right there, who answered questions, emails, texts, let me sit in her space for hours at a time. So I wanted to say that. We have what you see in the high school budget is not just me, it's the work of other administrators on the district team and Jay's help and Mandy's help, but also teachers and the leadership team at the high school, survey that went out to students on courses that you saw, other input from students that we get in a variety of ways. So I am requesting some additional resources related to those reasons, and I'll just highlight those briefly. You'll see all the detail, and I know there'll be additional, be questions in the future. And so if you move to the last slide, this is my last slide. It's just to give you a sense of the 3 buckets. Do have a considerable amount of supplies in our English and science and industrial arts program. You will see them in the budget. We divided them up into 2 or 3 groups so that we can work at it over 2 or 3 years. So you'll see that, but they come from 3 years of in-person, not in-person. That English is a good example. Getting books to kids during that hybrid year when they were remote, many of those books didn't come back. And that is just, part of the cost of these pandemic years is that it was hard to connect. So just wanted to highlight that. I wanted to highlight that one of the items, which is a cost for history textbooks, I kind of put under the response because it's a living dynamic. We know that dialogue we're all in with the world right now about our history and what it means to us. And so having up-to-date history texts is important. I taught geometry for many years. I could have used Euclid's Elements. 2,000-year-old book, it wouldn't have changed. A lot of those principles are the same. How we view our history is different. It's a different kind of subject. And then the third and most exciting bucket is really about where do we want our high school to be? Where do we want our kids to be positioned, our future to be ready to take on and be who they want to be? So I am looking for an additional math instructor. You'll see that in the positions. And we've spent the year piloting a really high quality curriculum that those of us in the math teaching field have been looking for many years. And this is the result of many teachers' work. And it's working this year, and we have data, and we want to invest in that in our future, toward the future. And then, continue to build and support relevant hands-on instruction. We're adding, the robotics section means adding more robots. And, if we share some, so we will work with what we've got, but I want to give you really good feedback on what high schools in America and in the world look like today, and adding some computer science classes, investing in our hands-on industrial arts program. We have 2 drills right now. Both are designed for wood. We're using them for metal. And so they wear out. So at some point, having a 3rd drill is important. And, CATSI's changing. They're doing metal fabrication now instead of welding. So we're responding to that, filling in things that they aren't doing, not duplicating things that they are doing. And so some of that requires some supplies. Thank you.
So before I talk about, just very briefly walk you through what the positions look like, I'd like to say thank you to the administrators. I know the elementary had 1 spokesperson, but they really are a team, and they really do talk to each other and really look closely at what the needs are at the elementary schools. And I couldn't ask for a stronger elementary team to work together to make some tough decisions as they bring forth what they need. So that's really important that I say that. I also want to say that both Rick and Michelle have done a fantastic job. It's very difficult when you're a principal coming in and you're working under somebody else's budget. And times have changed so much in the last couple of years that they have spent an enormous amount of time getting a handle on all of these budget lines, asking lots and lots of questions, and trying to be as responsible as possible, and also think forward as to what do I need to make sure these two schools continue to function and give the best to our students. So I want to say thank you to them as well, because it's difficult and it's challenging when you're the new person on the block and you've got to figure it all out. So they've done a fantastic job with that. So having said that, this paper is in your folders if you haven't already found it. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 positions that have been grant funded either through ESSER funds or Tier 3 funds. You can see the year of when we started these positions. The cost to add to the general budget that's what it will cost to keep kind of current staffing the way it is. So for example, right at the top, the elementary school nurse, which services Wayne and Mount Vernon. In order to keep that in the budget, we have 50% in the general fund already. In order to keep that person here, we would need an additional $43,000 to be able to do that. The elementary principal, again, we had, the board had agreed to use ESSER funds for this for 2 years and then to look at the success of it and what that would mean. So again, about $110,000 to continue that position in the budget. And in my note that you see there, that would, if we go down one principal, that means one principal is going to have to go back to covering 2 schools. So I just want to make sure everyone kind of thinks that through. The elementary guidance position, again, was covered fully by ESSER. And you can see $78,000 to keep it as is. I put the question there and it's just a thought question. I'm not looking for an individual answer or anything like that. But do we need 3 elementary guidance counselors when we had the addition last year of the elementary social worker? Again, it's just a question. Literacy specialists and math specialists in Wayne, pre-pandemic, those 2 positions were each 50% time and covered by part of the general funds. So again, you can see the literacy specialist to bring it to full-time was covered by ESSER. And again, that's going away. So in order to keep that at a full-time position, $77,000. Math interventionist was covered by Tier 3. Again, that's about $34,000 that'll be needed. If we want to return to pre-pandemic staffing levels, that gives you 50% positions in those schools. So again, I just want to remind you, those numbers are if we want to keep it the way it is, how much is it going to add to the general budget? Technology ed tech, again, it was working at the high school, funded through ESSER, be about $39,000 to keep it. The math ed tech at Mount Vernon Elementary School was funded by Tier 3. Again, you can see the amount there of $52,000. And then the transportation admin assistant is $22,000. We have one person, just so you understand, that actually drives bus and works 20 hours a week as an admin assistant. So again, that would change the structure over there as needed. Obviously, I can argue or advocate, I should say, for all of these positions. I think they're very valuable. I think they've served our district very well. And I think these positions are still important, but I also know the email that I sent out earlier today, the impact that this has to the overall budget. So then if you factor in, there's 4 positions there, but 3 of them would have a direct impact on the general budget. So again, the math interventionist, as Principal Sirois pointed out, kind of at the 11th hour, we took the math interventionist and turned it into a team position because of the influx of students that we had at the middle school, and it was never really filled. So the question becomes, if we're bringing back the math interventionists at $75,000, or do we say we up the team sizes and we have one of those teachers now become the math interventionist at the school? So it's kind of going to come down to what do we want and how do we want to work that through? The student resource officer we've talked a lot about. Sheriff Mason was here. He gave you the number of 140,000. Him and I have been talking. We haven't nailed down a specific figure, so I went with the higher figure at this point. I do think that number is going to come down some, but again, I'm in negotiations with him to find out what is that number really going to be for us. So I just went with the higher number at this time. It's probably going to be lower. How much more, I can't tell you at this time. The adult ed director, moving Steve Vosta full-time. His CDL program has obviously taken off. There's a huge demand for it. He basically funds himself. And to be quite honest, he's been working a lot of extra days to help hold that program together and build that program and keep things running smoothly. He knows and understands that if the funding was to go away, then he would drop back down to 80%. But that 16,000 he funds himself through the revenue he generates through the program. But I do think the amount of work that he's doing, mostly on Fridays, which is his day not to work, we just have to acknowledge it. And if the funding dries up, then he drops back down to 80%. We've had that conversation. And then, as you saw at the high school, the math teacher to help with the implementation of computer programming going forward, which is definitely a need in our school, of $75,000. Keep in mind, those numbers represent not just salary, but benefits as well. So you're seeing kind of an estimate of what the salary and the benefits look like for that position. So all totaled, you're looking at $761,000 here. So it is a fairly big chunk of change. I'm presenting this to you tonight so that you have a chance to process this. I also highly encourage you to ask questions, not just tonight, but as you're thinking about this, because as Christine asked, I'd like to give you guys a first draft of the budget March 1st. So that would mean on March 15, I need to kind of get a feeling from the board, are these positions in the budget or not in the budget? And that's also important to make sure we hit contractual obligations for these positions as well.
So it's
Yeah.
February 15th, right?
February 15th, which is
Okay.
our next meeting date.
Yeah.
Yes. That just allows Mandy and I to actually build it into the budget, or, make sure when I give you a first draft, I want to say, here's everything. And like I said earlier, it's easier to take something out than it is to put something back in, 3 weeks down the line in March, in mid-March, say, oh, by the way, we want this back in. You tend to kind of confuse a lot of people when that happens. So Annie, please.
Since I'm brand new to the budget process, a lot of these funds, I have no idea what they mean, what they cover, how big they are. Should I reach out to you or to Mandy? I don't.
Yeah. So why don't you start by reaching out to me, and I will either direct you to Mandy or I will get you answers, one or the other. Yeah. And again, like if you have specific questions, I'm going to use Rick. If you want to talk about, well, what does that math interventionist versus team teacher thing look like? Give me the question. I'll get a response from Rick and I will get that back to you right away. So it's really important, I think, that you guys be able to kind of figure out, this is what we as a board can support going forward. And like I said, I can advocate for all of these positions, but I'm also a realist. And I know that we probably can't afford to go to our taxpayers with all of these positions either. So this is that kind of financial cliff that they talked about when ESSER funds came out, where we're at the wall and we have to make some decisions about what we're going to do going forward. And while I'm up here, I'll just take the opportunity again. Hopefully you saw the email. The ED 279 came out. The expected mill rate from the town was 7.1 last year. It's moved up to 7.29. On the surface, it's like, oh, that's not a big deal, right? but that actually translates to $608,000 that gets shifted over to our town responsibility. So it's going to impact people's property tax, and we all sitting here have zero control over that. That's the mandate from the state of Maine and the Department of Education. So when you factor $608,000 plus the $761,000 in these positions, you're already looking at a almost $1.3 million increase. And we haven't talked about energy costs. We haven't talked about contractual obligations for pay and benefits. We haven't talked about insurance. So there's a lot of things that we still have to consider going forward.
Will we have all of that data before the March 1st? I mean, like the insurance numbers and the energy units.
So the short answer to that is we will not. That's
Yeah.
what we do is estimate what we think and we always, I'll be very honest, we always estimate high so we can drop it back down. One of the things that I'm very worried about right now is insurance. We've always typically budgeted 10%. We're going to get that number, whatever our percentage increase is, very late in the game this year, much later than we usually get it. So I actually told Mandy, put in 15% right now, because usually if they're really solid, we get the number early on, and they're telling us the number is going to be really late, which is a signal to me to say it's probably going to be a very big number. Just trying to be a little cautious as we build it. So when you first see the budget, that first draft is probably going to be a little bit of a sticker shock, and then we'll start backing things down as we get information rolls in going forward. So we'll try to give you almost a weekly update through the month of March of what are the budget adjustments. So does that make sense, Christine?
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Can I ask another question?
Of course.
If we are wondering about parent and teacher input on certain things, like, for example, the principal's position.
Yep.
Do we still email that? I mean, I know we don't go contacting parents, but do
Yeah.
you, can you?
I can help
get that-
facilitate
help
that.
facilitate that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Just tell me what you're looking for and I absolutely facilitate that
Okay,
for you.
thank you.
Yeah. Sean, I think I saw your hand pop up too.
I know this maybe put a lot of pressure, but this is between this and the mill rate, that's a huge sticker shock. I mean,
Mhm.
it hasn't come as any surprise. I think if you look at the minutes, I talked about the cliff a number of times. Are we gonna get a ranking?
Yeah. If you would like one, I will give you one.
I
Yeah.
would like one.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to make you do
Yeah.
work. If
Yeah.
it's the board.
If- Betty,
I would like that
Okay.
too.
can I just see a thumbs up for those that would like to see a ranking of some kind from me?
So your prioritization.
That
of
would
the
be mine,
positions-
right?
yeah,
It's not the
okay.
sole decision, but I certainly can give that. And I didn't want to put that out there unless you guys wanted that too. So I will absolutely do that and I will get that
Might
out.
be a little pressure, but
No, it's okay. I expected it, but I just didn't want to do it any sooner than I had to. So I'll be honest.
I'd rather get to the bottom of some of these.
Yeah. Yeah, no, all good. I can definitely do that. I will add that into the sheet and update it with you guys. Okay, I am going to now jump back to the board table, but certainly we can still have discussions as needed.
I had I needed clarification on the adult education director. Presently, he's working 100% and 20% of that is being paid out of other funds. in
Yes.
effect.
Yeah.
If that's practical, it sounds fine to me as long as the money and
Yes.
support for that
Yeah.
time is still there. But is that 20% that's being used from the other stuff really needed for other parts of the program, and we're borrowing from Peter to pay Paul? Or
No, Steve Bose is totally funded through adult education. It's kind of separate. And it's the revenue that's generated through his program. And as he had announced, he got a big grant to continue to offer services for the CDL program. So he's actually all set for next year and it doesn't affect the regular budget or the general budget, I should say. And again, if he's not bringing in that revenue, then he's gonna slide back to 80%. So,
Okay, so if the revenue continues, so what we approve, we may not end up paying.
right, right.
But we want to approve what we want from him in case that other revenue slides.
Yeah.
And just so that you guys know, monthly, Mr. Vos, lets me know the extra work he's putting in, because we do pay, we're not gonna not pay people if they're working. So we have been paying him, and using the adult revenue line to be able to offset that a little bit. I just think we have to acknowledge that this is 100% position at this point. CDL is an immense amount of work. I can't stress that enough. There's a lot of steps to go through. There's a lot of logistics. There's a lot of communication with the state to be able to offer that program. So,
Thank you.
yeah, good question.
Other questions?
So the literacy and math, the literacy specialist and the math interventionist at Wayne Elementary School, those there are no other interventionists in Wayne, but in
Exactly.
other districts, I mean, would we go back to sharing?
We would,
among elementary schools? Is that how that would work?
yes, we probably would. Yeah, it's been really funky. It was really funky pre-pandemic because we had teachers that were sharing a classroom and then doing intervention 50% time. And that worked out really well, but it was also not a sustainable model, is the way I want to say that. We were actually losing people that are like, I can't do this. And they were leaving the position because it was just too much for them, which we totally understood. But so if we do have to go back, that'll be another struggle. I think that will kind of return as to how do we actually staff those positions.
Looking forward to your ranking.
Yeah.
I just have another, just a quick
Yes,
question,
of
and this
course.
might be again more if we get further into the process, but are the funds just earmarked through the budget process? Say we can't find anyone to fill that position, like the funds literally sit, waiting for the person to come and fill the position?
So the short answer is yes, but a lot of times we'll get creative in trying to find people to fill the positions, even if it's for part-time, and then
Okay.
use that to fund them.
Okay.
So we try to be as
Yep,
creative
yep.
as possible. Yes, knowing that the money's there, we try to be as creative as possible. Yeah. Like, I'm gonna use special ed for just a sec. Like, Ryan actually in a special ed budgets for 30 ed techs. Right now, he's only got 22. So again, we try to find a way to help him hire in those positions. So the money sits there until we can get somebody in the position, if that makes sense. But it's challenging. Sometimes we get people and they're in and out very quickly and stuff, so. I'm just using that as one example, simple one. Of course,
Is it possible for the next meeting to get from the sheriff, not a tentative number, but an actual
an
number?
actual number, yes, yeah.
And like, when
yeah,
you're negotiating, like, we should not be paying for his cruiser
Right.
and uniform, because he's still a deputy, right?
I wondered about that. too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that should not be covered by
Yeah.
the school.
Thanks.
in my-
So, for sure,
I think that'd be better than
yeah.
keep showing that
I-
six-figure number.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I just didn't have the new number yet, so I figured just go high for right now, so.
And some of it, like even if he's going in between schools, maybe that can be accounted for differently.
Right.
Well, no, I mean, in the end, he's a deputy sheriff, which means that cruiser is the counties, not the schools. Unless you want to take it and put a yellow bear print on it, and then claim it, but he can still be called up for service.
Right.
Like you said, in the summertime, he goes back to patrol. So he's still a deputy at the end of the day.
Absolutely, no, for sure.
So glad you said that. That seemed very odd to me in the presentation, that would be something that would be.
And I was
Varied by the
confused as
school.
well when he said that. He gave the figure at 140 of like, for him to hire on a new position, it's 140,000 with all the gear,
Yeah.
all the insurance, the salary, the car. That's what he pays. So there was no, and I didn't, it slipped my mind to even ask it, what's the breakdown that the school would pay? You know, are we paying for the cruiser? Because if we are, then they can stay here and he can drive home to work.
Yeah, yeah.
No, for sure. I will definitely get the ranking out to you guys as soon as possible here. Thank you. For your consideration. Want to ask if there's any citizen comments?
Are there any citizen comments for the budget? I guess not, but I'll expect them at a later point. We need input all around. And on the ranking, I know there's the traditional 1, 2, 3, 4, but I would also think that there may be first priority and there'd be 2 or 3 in that, second, and important, but third priority.
Yep, I was gonna do a 3-tier, yeah. The one
okay.
the one that's important, these second, these third. So, yep. Try to keep it as simple as possible.
I have another.
Oh, I think.
So we have one social worker for the whole district.
Just the social worker, one works through the special ed program and mostly spends time here at the middle school and high school. So the elementary one is just for the 4 elementary schools. That's where her focus has been this year.
And are they, is that person, are they pretty much in one building or are they getting around?
They get around to all 4 elementary schools, yes.
And are they kind of, is there a lot on the plate? Do they have like, are they able to breathe or?
Yeah, I would say they have time to breathe, but it depends on the day of the week. I think there's a lot of need. I think it's a very valuable position right now.
Now, with the social worker and the guidance counselor, they social work can do far more, from what I understand, than a guidance counselor.
Yeah.
And we talked about this before of, I think we did, putting it out there to the guidance counselors, like, hey, would you be interested in getting becoming a social worker to, and that never went anywhere?
Never went anywhere. I didn't have anyone take us up on it last year, but it doesn't hurt to offer it again.
Can I just add a comment to that? So, just for comparison, the district where I work has a social worker in every elementary school. And they can't breathe.
Yep, that's, my wife's previous district has one in every elementary school. It's the same.
Yeah.
Just, that's why I was asking, with one for the elementary, I can't imagine it.
Right.
And in the presentation, when we were deciding that, I think, and feel free to correct me or adjust it, it was made clear that although there's not that much overlap between the counselor and the social worker, they can work together significantly, but what our students need them for is they're taking care of different parts of the need.
I just want to add a little bit of information about that. One of the ways that I think students right now, one of the needs that they have are that very much aligned with what a social worker would do. Guidance counselors are wonderful and I love them, but one of the things that we call on the social workers to do often is a particular kind of therapy that students really need that they're not getting in the community. And it really impacts their school functioning, their access to education. So I would rather have social workers in those positions because they can do all of the guidance counselor stuff and that's
So guidance counselors can't do therapy sessions.
Right.
Yeah, they're not trained as therapists in the way that social workers are. Yeah.
Would one taking on the other training, becoming certified as a social worker, in effect be taking on less breathing room, double the work? And would that mean if they're double certified, we should be changing the pay scale?
I think there's actually, even though the roles are very different, there's still substantial education and training that goes into being a guidance counselor alone. So my thought is that taking on a second degree or second on top of their pretty substantial training already is probably not attractive to most guidance counselors. It's more work. A lot of night school for them, so I don't really see that. Yeah.
Oh, who is it? Oh, Patty, just so I'll speak for David and I apologize, just so you have a chance.
I was just trying to remember what the guidance counselor who talked to us last budget season before we talked about this said, and you all could correct me if I'm wrong, but my recollection is that it was really important last year at this time that we needed both, because each does different things and the level of need of the students is so astronomical compared to what it was. And I wondered if there was a way to find out without putting more on the plates of the people who already can't breathe, if that is still the way that the current guidance staff feels. Do you know what I mean? Like last year we heard that both were really important and they did different things and both were needed, if I remember correctly. And that's why we ended up here. And I guess I just wonder, is that still how people feel now?
Well, I think I take it from Jay's comment that that will be looked into.
Yeah. Thank you.
Kelsey?
Hi there, thank you. Patty, I think you're right. And I think it would be great to hear from all the mental health staff that we have to get a bead on what their professional opinion is on that whole status. I think it'd be great to hear from them. That's all.
Thank you.
Can I just say something super quick following up on that? Kelty, I feel like we share a brain a lot, but I just feel really conscious of how we ask people to do things and then it puts more work on their plate. So do you feel, Kelty, as the person who said it, and does the rest of the board feel like if we could get comments in writing, like in an email, that would be satisfactory versus people coming to do some kind of presentation? Or I just wanted to put that question out there because
Yeah. No, I hear exactly what you're saying. And that's just it. You know, asking people to show up this time of night after a long day is a big ask, although it is incredibly valuable. But I think an email would suffice too. I don't see why not, but hearing directly from them in any form would be really beneficial.
Sean?
I think another piece of information that would be helpful to me with this list is how many students are served by each of these, like, and what they do. I mean, I'm not trying to offend anyone. Sorry if it's your job, but I have no idea what a technology ed tech does. Yep.
And that helps us evaluate how it's going to affect.
Yes.
That was also on, I'm glad you asked, because that was
Yeah, 'cause I'm
also
looking
on my
at it
list.
and I'm like, I have no idea.
We will get those, yep.
Any more comments, questions, or thoughts on the staffing at this time? Patty?
I really liked what Christine said a little while ago, and I don't know, I've missed a lot, but I didn't, so I didn't know if it was already in the works, but Christine, you mentioned, is there feedback already, or is there feedback available from staff and parents about the elementary school principal? And I guess I just wanted to echo that that would be really helpful to look at, and wondered if that was already available and we could just, or not. No.
I have not done any survey with the parents to get their input at this point, but that's a really good question and a really good suggestion, and we will definitely have that.
Continuing need on all aspects of our schooling, of need for feedback from every part of our community. And so that finishes our budget workshop.
Yep. Can I do something really quick before we?
Yes.
I know he probably hasn't said anything super publicly, but I'm going to inform the board that Dane Wing will be stepping down and this is the last meeting as a board member. So I'd like to take this opportunity. I know Kathy's not here and we've got other board members, but want to take this opportunity to present you with this small token of our appreciation for everything that you've done for the students here in RSU 38. I think your voice has been very needed, and I think you remember well, you started at a time, a very, what's the word I want to use? Contentious time. So I think you managed it really well, and we've appreciated your voice and what you brought to the board, and you will be very sorely missed. So we hope at some point you'll be able to join us again.
And I'd also like to ask and point out that even though you may not be on the board, you can give us a lot of input. And
I'll be here.
it has been
I'll
helpful
be
with
consulting
you
you,
here.
trust me.
Please continue. Okay.
Still come, you can just sit over.
Right. I'll make public comment.
Yes.
Would
I-
Dane be an SRO?
I would love it if you could match my salary.
How does it stack up to the 140? You know, never mind.
We need a motion to go to executive session.
I move we go into executive session, to consider labor contract discussions between the Maranicook Area School Support Staff and the RSU 38 Board of Directors pursuant to MRSA Title I, Section 405, Section C, 6D.
There's a second.
Oh. And we have to take a quick vote. So, David G,
Yes.
Jade,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Dane,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Kelty.
Yes, sorry, it got stuck.
Oh, good. And David T.
Yes.
So it is unanimous. We are now in executive session. We'll go over to the band room again. And I'm going to have Mandy and Ryan join us for that executive session. We'll wait for Diane's signal and then we can get started. Maybe slide your microphone over to Christine.
The school board is back in session.
I move to approve the memorandum of understanding between the RSU 38 Board of Directors and the Maranicook Area Support Staff Association that adds a specialized day treatment program salary scale to the contract.
Any discussion? Shall we vote then?
Oh, Sean.
Oh, excuse me, Sean. Here, here.
Yes. Okay, David G.
Yeah.
Jade is no longer, is Jade still with us? No, okay. Oh. Oh, okay, sorry. All set now. Annie?
Yes.
Dane? Christine?
Yes.
Is Patty with us? No, okay. Rebecca? Betty? Sean?
Yes.
Kelty?
Yes.
Thank you. And David T.
Yes.
So motion passes unanimously.
Do I have a motion to adjourn? All in favor? Let's go.
Thank you, everyone.